Welcome back to our Django series. In this episode, we are going to dive into creating our first Django app. We'll use the Pulse app from the Django documentation as our example. The Pulse app is a classic example used by Django developers to learn the framework. It allows users to vote on simple polls. By the end of this episode, you'll have a good understanding of how to create your own Django apps. Okay. Here's what we are going to cover in this episode. We are going to cover setting up of the polls app, defining models for polls and choices, creating views and templates, registering the polls app in the admin panel. We are going to do those 4 activities. Let's start by setting up our polls app with our existing Django project. So I'm going to pull up my terminal now. You should all do same. We'll be opening our project now inside our VS Code, so be ready.
We are going to navigate towards our folder that we created, that is our polls project. Okay, so you can do this by going to files, then you open folder, then navigate to where your project is. Mine, it's in this folder. If you can remember clearly, it's on the desktop in my lab, then room 2, and then polls. So this is the folder I'm going to work with. So if you're following my structure, you should have this interface. If you've done something else, just make sure that you're inside your polls. You should have the bigger folder called polls here, and then within it was a smaller polls. Now all Django projects that you create will have this small subfolder inside it. So when you create another folder called store, you also have this small one called store. That's if you create a major project. Okay, so our project name is polls, so hence our core app, or our core yes, it's called a core app. Our core app in the system is going to be what? Polls. And inside this polls, that's where you have your settings, your URLs, your WSGI, and then your important stuffs. Okay, this is where the application passes through before accessing any other app in the system. Okay, so that is it. So we are about to create a new app. Okay, we'll be creating a new app, and it is this app that is going to be managing our features or database models or whatever it is that we are now going to create. The important thing to note here is our app is going to be called polls, and it may confuse you with the original or the core polls that is here. But then I want you to take good note. So I'll show you the difference between the two polls, and then which one you'll be working with as an app, and then which one becomes the core. Okay, so let's get right into that. Let's check. So the first thing that we do every time we're about to work with our project is to activate our environment. If you didn't create an environment inside the polls, you did it inside room 2, make sure you are in room 2 before you activate it. Else, when you inside the polls, then you do pip env shell. Now if you've already created an environment, it would activate it, it will pick it and then activate it. If you haven't, it will create a new one. So you should have a successfully created virtual environment now. Then if I want to use pip freeze to check which packages have been installed inside my new virtual environment, let's see. Okay, so I don't have any output, so that means I haven't installed any packages here. So the next thing I have to do now is install the packages that I may need, so which is pip install. The most important one that you will need no matter what is Django. Okay, you install it inside. I know we installed the Django previously, but that is for the entire system for creating projects. But now that we've created a project and we are inside it, it still needs a Django to work with. It may take it from the major system, or it may install a new one depending on your specification. So this is us trying to install it. Okay, so we successfully installed all the packages that are needed in that environment. Now the virtual environment that we've created is like a new system, a separate virtual operating system on its own. Yes, it's an environment for you to work with in a controlled way so that you don't conflict with the packages that are in the main system. So I'd advise that you really look into it and then learn how to use it more once again. Alright, so now we have our Django installed. If you should now type pip freeze. Now we see that all the packages that are needed for our Django application to work have been installed here. So yes, we are going to run our Python manage.py. Now, before we run Python manager, we need to make sure that the manage.py script it is in the folder. So currently we are in lab 2. So let's get to our lab, our polls project. And inside our polls project, we have manage.py here. So we can now run Python manage.py run server. Now, when you do this, there are a couple of things that you will notice. This particular thing written down here in red, if you read it, and I advise you should really learn how to read your logs or messages that appear in your terminal. They speak to you more than you can imagine. It is telling us that we have 18 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work until you apply the migrations for the app. Admin, the app's admin, auth, content type, and sessions. Now, these 4 apps here are system generated. Okay, so the system has created this, and now it has given us the command to run in order to migrate those items. So despite that, the server is running. Okay, so if you should check your web browser inside, you would notice that the server is running. But then to be safe, we need to run migration by running the Python manage.py migrate. So I'm going to close my server. Now you'll see that quit server with control break. Control break is control C. So once you do control C, your server stops. Then now you can run Python manage.py migrate. Yes, so it has migrated all the items that need to be migrated. So now they have been created, or they've been run, or they've been executed into the database. We can now run our server once more. Then you realize it is running. We no longer have any migrations to do. So if we check our browser, we will get our server running. Okay, so I'm just going to open my browser by following this link. You can use Control plus left click to open it in your desired or default browser, or you can just open your browser and then go and type this command inside. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to open up my Chrome. Okay, so now my Chrome is open. I'm just going to paste my URL in there and then hit enter. Yes, so this is our project. So it's running successfully. So now we're going to go back to the application and then now start writing some Python Django codes. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. Okay, so now my Chrome is open. I'm just going to paste my URL in there and then hit enter. Yes, so this is our project. So it's running successfully. So now we're going to go back to the application and then now start writing some Python Django codes. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. Okay. So now we are going to create apps. Okay, in Django we have something called apps. We have something called apps. These are modularized codes that allow us to focus on certain functions of our application. We are going to use the following command to run our app, but first we have to close our server. That's Control C. I hope you remember that. That's cool. Then for better visibility, I'm just going to clear so that we see an empty terminal. So you run the following command in your terminal to create the polls app: Python manage.py start app polls. Okay, so in order not to have it confused with the core polls, let's use capital polls. Okay, so capital P, capitalized polls. I think that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, it says it already exists. Yeah, so this is one of the concerns that I was talking about. So once we have our core app to be created as polls, it becomes a challenge. Okay, it can maybe, so now that means it's not even case sensitive. So whether you use capital P or small p, it's going to cause a conflict in the system. So I'm going to think of a unique name right now. Let's do something like post app. Okay, let's just do post app. Let's just do post app. Yeah, so we have post app now, and when you take a look at our folder structure here, you can see that our post app has some files in it, so that's been created. We have our init. Now init.py allows you to reference the folders that you are working with. It allows the entire system to know, okay, there is a Python file here, so you can access it by doing the dot or the slash. Yeah, we have our admin here that allows us to register models in our admin panel. Then our apps, that gives us some information on the apps configuration. Models, where we'll write our models or database. Test, we'll test our apps. Views, this is where we write our view functions that allow us display what we want on what screens. Okay, so here we are going to start working with our models. Okay, we need to define our models. Now models are the building blocks of your database structure. Okay, we'll define two models. We have poll and choice. So when you get your poll, you go into here, you can clean this comment, it's not really needed. Then you can now define our pool and then choice. So you can have, this is how you write a model class pool, then into bracket models dot model. Now if you're wondering where this is coming from, we just imported from Django.db import models. So from these models that we have stated here, we are importing another subclass that is called what model. That's what we'll be using to create our structure. So in here we can have a couple of things here. um, let's see, let's start with just the simple ones. Let's call it poll name or poll title. Every poll has a title. Okay, let's use name. I prefer name, so let's do name is equal to models dot car field. Car field stands for character field. It allows you to store strings, okay, of specified length. So you can store strings, include symbols, numbers, what have you. So we need to set a max length to 100, and then setting it whether it is a required field to create or to create a pool or not. Now we know we can't create a pool without a pool name. So if you wanted to set it to default that it shouldn't be blank, we just clean this. Then we now have this. So we've created a pool with an attribute called name. Okay. Then we can now save that. If your VS Code is on auto save like mine, you'll see that it saves after every change that I make. So we can now go to our terminal, and then we run um, after defining the models, we need to create migrations and apply them to our database. So we can use the following commands to do that. So you can just run python manage.py make migrations. So whenever you make a change or you want it to take effect in a database, first you run make migrations. No changes detected. Okay, so now the reason why our change hasn't been detected is the Django app is not, or our Django project is not recognizing the new post app that we just created. So what you have to do is you have to go into your settings file that is inside the main or the core Django. So inside our installed apps, we will have to add our polls app that we just created here so that it's able to detect it. So we can do pulse app with a comma, then it's saved. Make sure you save. Then we come back and then run our make migrations. This is the success. If you have this message, then it's a success. So migrations have been created for Pulse app. If you come into Pulse app and you look at the migrations, this is the first one. You realize there are some things that have been done. So it's trying to say these are the operations that it's going to perform. So migrations dot create model called pool, and then these are the fields. Okay, so inside Django, it's going to read this and then translate it to what SQL code. If you don't know SQL code, please go and check out our tutorials. I think we'll be making we'll be making a series on SQL, how to use MySQL. You can subscribe, make sure you subscribe so that when that comes, you won't miss out. All right, so let's get back to what we're doing. So now, after you've run, make sure that that is in the settings. You've run the make migrations. The next thing that we have to run in order to write the changes or the instructions inside the migrations to the database, we now do what? Migrate. So Python manage.py migrate. So yes, so now we have our change that has been applied to the database. So the next thing that we are going to look at quickly is how the Django admin dashboard comes into play with all of this. Because yes, you've created a model now, but you can't see it and you don't know whether if you have anything in there. So we want a visual representation, something that you can use to view our app and its operations. So what you're going to do is you are going to create a super user. Okay, so the best way to do that is to use Python manage.py create super user. It's going to require us to enter a username and password. If you leave it as blank, it would use your existing or your current username, but I'm going to use admin, and then you can just set any email here, admin@gmail.com. The chosen one. You can set your password. Make sure you remember the password. Stop. Okay, so enter the password that you entered first again, sort of a double confirmation. Okay, so if it doesn't match, they'll tell you your passwords don't match. Then you have to try again. Alright, so my super user account has been created successfully. So let's go on to create a view for our Pulse app. Okay, so we need to create a view for our Pulse app, but then as promised, I did say the reason why we just created a super user account is to just see what we've done so far. So let's go into our Pulse app and then locate the file called admin.py. So inside our admin.py, we are now going to register our model here. Okay, so first we need to import the model that we want to register. So from now, since our admin py is inside the Pulse app, we can just use the period here to denote that we want to then the app that we are trying to fetch from is inside the current folder that we are working in. So from models, import Pulse. So dot means the Pulse app. Then inside the Pulse app, we have what? Models.py. But instead of writing models.py, we just need to write what? Models. And because of this init file here, it will help us locate it easily without us having to add that. So inside our models.py, we have Pulse, which is this particular model here. So let's go back. So in order to register a model, we do admin dot site dot register, then into bracket the model that we've imported. Once we've done that, let's run our server and ensure there's no error. Use python manage.py run server. Okay, so now we have an error that we need to look into. So one thing you need to understand is we don't shy away for errors. Okay, the more errors that we get, I will show you how to go around them so that when you meet any error of such magnitude, you know how to operate. So let's debug this particular error. It is telling us that from .models import pools. It is saying import error, cannot import name pools from pools app.model. So when we go into our models, let's see. We have our model here created as pool, not pools. Okay, and in my admin, I am trying to import what? Pools. So it is telling us that it can't find any pool with an S. So we need to revert it to what? Just this pool. So as we've done that, you realize the server is now running well. So let's go into our browser. Then we log in as admin and then we view our created app. Alright, so inside your browser, if you should type /admin after the server link, you should be faced with this interface. When you enter the username and the password that you've created and you log in, you should have this before you. We are going to use this to manage our apps of sorts. Our app name that we created is Post App, and then the model that is inside the Post App, one of them is, or the only one that we have now is called Post. When you click on it, is to show you a list of posts if you had created any, but we don't have any. So let's go for them and add one. So right here, I want to use family head selection. You have to type it in there. Then when you hit save, it gets saved. But then right now, you see that this is being represented as what? Poll object 3. We don't want that. We want to see family head selection. So we go back into our models.py and then make the necessary edits to ensure that we have that. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. So inside our new model, we are going to add a new method. We use def, then underscore underscore str, another underscore underscore, then we bring in the self, and we return self.name. That should display the name of all the pool that will be created. Okay, we are just going to add some comments here to handle that for us. Okay, so let's go back to our browser, our dashboard interface, and then check out what is happening there. So the next thing that we are going to look at is creating views. So views are a way, or how do I say this? Okay, so views view allows our users to interact with our app. Okay, yes, you've seen an interaction page which is like the Django dashboard, but then that is not what all users are going to be using to interact with the app. Okay, they need their own interfaces through like the web that they can be able to cast their votes and perform all other functions. So that is what we are going to work on next. We are going to define some views. The most important view that is needed is our index page. Okay, it shows, it's going to be listing all the polls that we have currently in our system. So what we'll do is let's go to our polls, go to views.py. You should see something empty, beautiful like this. Then we are going to import a couple of things. So right now we have from Django.shortcut import render. It's going to be needed, so pay attention. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is let's define our index. Okay, we'll define our index here. So define index, into bracket, then we pass in request. So we all know that whatever is coming from a user to our web server is a request. So that's what we are trying to pass through here. We pass it as an argument. So our semicolon, enter. Then we can introduce some comments here. View for all or for listing all polls. Okay, then the next thing we are going to do is let's grab latest polls and then store them inside. Let's grab latest polls and then store them inside our variable called latest polls. So this is how we create it, latest polls, and then we equate it to poll dot objects dot order by. No, let's not complicate things. Let's just fetch all polls right now. Okay, I'll show you how to manipulate all that particular information when we get them. So all polls, then let's have our context should be equal to a dictionary with the key latest polls and the value latest polls. All right, so you see that we have our poll underlined, so it means we haven't imported it. So from dot models import poll. Okay, then we are now going to return what the value to our HTML page. So what we are going to do is return render into bracket request comma post slash index dot html, and we submit our context. Okay, so you've written your first view. Okay, then the next thing that we'll have to check is ensuring that this is displaying on our web pages.